say for my life, yes, this is a legacy. For my daughter, it's a legacy to see that that's all she's known me to do, and that people know me for that when they come up to us.
Now you talk
and
that talk. I like that.
People see me, I'm like, yes, you're James the Giant Cupcake. I like to be like Oz, if that makes sense. I'm very much a let the product speak for itself, and then I kind of hide behind and go, yes,
I got him.
Yeah, I won that. But that to me is my reward, is not saying Eurydice did it, but like, I love this cupcake. Who did it?
Right.
And I go, that was me.
Welcome back to another episode of the Big Dog Talk podcast. It's me, the one and only Big Charles. As you can see, we have a special guest today. But before I get into our special guest, make sure you subscribe to our Big Dog Talk podcast YouTube channel. Listen, Big Charles is really trying. I have 70,000 followers almost on Instagram. I need at least 10% of that on YouTube. So you guys help me out by clicking Big Dog Talk podcast YouTube and hitting the subscribe button. Okay, guys? All right. So we have a special guest today. Her name is Eurydice Manning. She's the owner and founder of James and the Giant Cupcake in Oakland, California, North Oakland.
Yes.
She is an Oakland native. She's been in the food industry for over 20 years, and she's been a boss for 15 years. So I am very glad and appreciative of you coming and being on the Big Dog Talk podcast, because I feel like this is going to be very inspirational.
Oh, thank you.
I do believe that I have a mindset of when people see success, it inspires. Like if she can do it, I can do it.
Yes, that's true.
So we're gonna dive into it. Tell us about who you are, where you come from. Just let's dig into it.
Okay, let's dig into it. Well, I am an Oakland native. I grew up in Oakland, and those are my roots. My family is also from Oakland, so I've been a part of Oakland for a long time. So it's my background to my story. And a lot of my passion comes from my inspiration of being in Oakland and wanting to build and contribute to the greatness of what Oakland has and continues to have.
So you were born and raised in Oakland?
Yeah, born and raised in Oakland.
So you are familiar with the term Old Oakland and New Oakland?
Oh yeah, it's East 14th versus International.
Okay,
yes, I'm part of that. Yes.
So in your perspective, because you're an Oakland native, what was so good about the old Oakland?
I would say the old Oakland was a big secret, and I feel like old Oakland was a beautiful place that people, a very diverse city, full of different ethnicities and backgrounds and food and culture and accessible.
It's always been like that?
It was like that when I grew up, and so I was always blessed to be a part of that as a child. And I knew growing up how beautiful of a city Oakland was, especially getting to travel to different states and going, whoa, this is nothing like Oakland. So like even going to LA or going to, I had family in Colorado, and just different road trips and things like that, or just even getting out an hour or two from the Bay Area, you start to experience what treasures we have in Oakland.
Right.
And how free you can really be especially as a person of color,
Mm.
you can kind of put your shoulders down.
Mm.
And
And a woman.
and a woman, and an outspoken woman. There's there's a lot of us
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
And so I grew up with that protection and that inspiration, and I didn't know how sacred it was
Mm.
until I left. And I think that really gave me the real value of wanting to be a business owner in Oakland. And I would almost honestly say traveling internationally, you go, whoa, there's a lot of beautiful things in the world, but Oakland is really got a lot of the components all in one.
So when you say you left, you're just talking about traveling.
Traveling. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I honestly had a hard time actually leaving the Bay Area. I would tap out and I'd be like, no, I don't think so. And, it's hard to leave for me. I think I've always felt so accepted and comfortable. And that's huge for me. And I could say maybe it's because I didn't live other places for years, but just from kind of putting my feelers out, traveling, I was always just like, I want to travel, but I feel like this is my real home, and this is where my roots are, and I understand my family's from here. I understand I'm connected to the land. I want to do something here. I don't feel like I want to go other places to do.
I'm glad that you said that you wanted to do something here, because that was my next question. So, entrepreneurial hat.
Yeah.
Why? So you've been in business for over 15 years.
Yeah.
In Oakland.
Just in Oakland.
Just in Oakland.
Just in Oakland.
One, how did you get into business? Like, why business? And two, why Oakland?
I grew up with my dad being an entrepreneur. He had his own business. He was an engineer and an inventor. So I was surrounded by, and he's from Oakland. And so grew up seeing how to do it on your own. And my dad didn't go to an office. Like, he didn't have that life. And I think that was such a unique twist for me, is to see him on his computer when computers weren't really a big thing. And I'm talking about the late 80s, early 90s, designing. He had lathes. He was, cutting steel and designing,
So he was creative.
Yeah, he was extremely creative. And I kind of tagged along as a child. So I just grew up seeing somebody who was following their passion. And
I like that.
After school, we would go to the quandary and just do our homework while he was working with big machines and creating equipment and designing things for other companies to sell. So I didn't realize what I was absorbing. And so I think as I became older, I realized, wait, I want to do something on my own as well. Like, why wouldn't I? That's what I grew up seeing. I'm creative, and so was my father. So he was a huge influence in my life.
So dad is a big inspiration.
Massive inspiration.
Wow.
Yeah.
You mentioned following your own passion.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you? Because you have a cupcake business. so
it's not an engineering job.
you make cupcakes.
I do.
So
yes.
I'm guessing that you're looking like for a certain texture,
It's still science. That's the thing. That's where we overlap. Is like I think that's why I chose baking over being a chef. I mean, gosh. I want to say we didn't come from nobody was like hooking it up on that level. I wasn't like, oh, let me pass down my dad's like recipes. No. But I think cupcakes, there's my own personality as well, which is being an artist, being, I love bringing something unique to the surface. And whether it be clothing, which is what I started off doing,
Oh wow.
doing custom designs for people, just doing stitching. My mom owned a clothing store in Berkeley in the 70s.
Whoa.
And she did so she did like really unique denim skirts with Levi's, and just in the hippie era, just making beautiful dresses and doing things like that. And she um, had dead stock denim with her partner. And so that was a huge inspiration too, seeing like, okay, my mom did that, not as long as my dad, and more of a project than a lifestyle. But my parents were both very artistic in that sense. And so it didn't just fall into my lap. I saw it. And so I said, after I kind of tried my mom's path for a little bit, I was like, okay, let me try clothing because, okay, I love fashion, but I like unique fashion. So I'm not a Gucci girl. I don't want to kind of follow along in that thread of let me access the most expensive, but let me access what hasn't been made yet, or what's one of a kind, what's going to vibrate with who I am, and what's going to vibrate with other people. And so I tried that. I enjoyed it, but I didn't think I wanted to do it as a living. And so my grandmother was a chef and a baker. And I kind of grew up. I mean, she hooked it up. Let's just say that. It didn't get passed on to my mom, but she used to hook it up.
So skip mom.
Skip mom. Mom was a vegetarian in the late 60s, 70s. So she was kind of on the side trying to figure it out. And but my grandmother, she really knew. She was a great chef, but she also knew how to bake. And I think that's something that with my mom being a vegetarian, we, as much as we wanted to take a plate home, it wasn't always going to work out. So the baking did work out.
Wow.
And I think the process of that was something that was intriguing, and that I remembered the end result being something magical.
Wow.
And unique. So I didn't approach it until after my grandmother was gone. I just thought, this is something that I haven't tapped into. I've never tried baking, but cupcakes were something that everybody loves cupcakes. I think that there is something nostalgic about it when cupcakes were starting to become a trend in the food industry. And there was something about people being excited about something pretty and being in the moment and enjoying it. And I hadn't seen that in a product. I hadn't seen that even with ice cream or cakes or anything that's kind of old school. It was like, wow, cupcakes. That was something that we would bring to parties and people would be excited, kind of like Rice Krispie treats, right? That's maybe something we were a little bit used to, like, oh, whoa, that's amazing. But then it was cupcakes. So I thought, I can do that because it's artistic and it's creative, but also I like to see people happy in the moment. And how can I do that? And so I just gravitated towards that. Now, did I know what I was doing?
Wait.
I had no idea what I was
You're going
doing.
too far. You're going too far. You're going too fast. Hold on. Wait. I want you to remember that.
Yes.
I want you to remember that. But while I'm listening to you, it's like different chapters are going through my head. But all that I see is, or the question that I keep hearing is like, one, I see like how you are a very self-aware person, different, esoteric being.
Thank you.
So how did you get to the point? And this is little bit off topic. How did you get to the point where I'm asking because I'm intrigued by this part?
Yeah.
How did you get to the point where, I'm checking for, like, you like checking within for that thing that give you that spark, that battery, that plug? How did you become that aware? Like, where did that come from? Like living within, basically, because it sounds like you live within. And you can you
That spark for like creating my business.
no,
Like,
that spark of knowing that, okay, my experience with mom and dad, they both are artsy.
yeah,
I tried mom's path.
yeah,
I tried that didn't work.
not really.
So
Yeah,
that took some self-reflection.
yeah,
I did I got some stuff from dad.
yeah,
I took from both of them,
yeah,
made it my own. I'm still trying to figure something out.
yeah,
Oh, now I gotta go. Now I'm thinking about my grandmother.
yeah.
Now I'm in this deep. I'm even deeper. It's like I'm finding
Channeling that
yes.
ancestor.
So like, how did you get to that space before we get back to the cupcakes? Because I'm interested in that. How did you get to that space? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm not actually sure. I think during the process, I felt like I had I because I loved what my grandmother made and I had the palate to understand the joy that she brought. So let's take it to a holiday. Let's
Okay.
go to like an average Thanksgiving.
Okay. Let's take it to a
And I
holiday.
called her Mama, right?
Okay.
So that was her name, Mama. That's my grandmother. There was no pie like hers. Every daughter would try to bring a pie and be like, and so my grandmother didn't give her recipes out. She was like, you're gonna have to figure it out. You should have watched.
Oh wow. Okay.
And they would try. And the pies would be sitting on the table. And so our family would take a slice of pie and be like, whose pie is this? All right, now where's Mama's pie? Like we would wait for her pie.
Mama's pie.
Oh, Mama's pies. And she had the kind of pie where after she put it away with the foil in the middle of the night, and you were spending the night there.
So you were sneaking in the middle of the night.
The foil would be lifted and be like, who ate this pie? It's just too good. Okay. So that obsession was something I think I thought about a lot. It's like, wow, there's something that she does that nobody else does.
Wow.
And I want that. I love that quality. And so I think that was an inspiration for me as well. It's just seeing how unique she was, seeing how people wanted to walk in her footsteps. And
oh, that's big.
Didn't know how to approach it. Maybe didn't put in the dedication. Maybe didn't watch enough. Maybe just decided to show up that day and try and be like, whatever. But like, they had to take their pie back home because nobody wanted it. But hers was gone. So I think that was a subconscious memory that seeped into me and made me want to be, I'm looking at the word glory here. I was glorious. I would say just bigger than average, wanting to create passion with food. And I think we all have our moment where we have that dish or we have that experience and we see that chef and we go, you're amazing. And I'm inspired by you and I want to be like you. Now, we're old school, so it's going to come from somebody, from your grandmother or from someone that made an impact or your favorite restaurant. But those are the roots of food. They're going to come from family for the most part, right, if you have deep passion for it, or they're going to come from a chef that you worked side by side with where you see the passion. But you're not doing food without passion. Not doing it well.
Okay, that's
without deep passion.
So now we at James and the Giant Cupcake.
Fast forwarding, yep, James and the Giant Cupcake.
And how did you come up with that name? I'm sorry.
It's pretty bonkers. No, I had no idea. So my name is Eurydice.
Okay.
So I already knew like the association with me is already pretty unique. Okay. And so You carry a name like that your whole life. You're not going to go with this like cupcakes and me or something, it's not going to be anything average. And so here's the thing. I'm a Sesame Street girl. I'm an imaginative person. If you want another influence in my life is Jim Henson.
Okay.
Because I am a fun person.
Okay.
And that's what I connect to people with. And I say that goes beyond anything for me, is having a good time. We all can have a good time. I think that's a big driving force in what I want to do in my life is I can always find the fun in you. I can find the connection we have that is human. And I think it's because of, my parents coming together in the 60s, being mixed, I knew that was my connection with people. And so I was like, how can I make this something that connects us all? How can I be on that Jim Henson level where we all love Sesame Street? All of us have some connection. I mean, I hope so. That was a little bit, if you're old school like me. But I think that was something that started me off. And also, I mean, one of my favorite movies is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Okay.
Favorite book, James and the Giant Peach.
Okay.
Those stories are going beyond reality. And that's what I wanted to do. And I was like, okay, Oakland doesn't have a cupcake shop. So I want to go and make people go, wait, what? We're not just driving past something like, did I see something kind of unique? I knew it needed to be something special. I knew it needed to be a little bit ridiculous, if that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Wait, did you see that? Like, it needs to be a topic of conversation.
It's really dramatic.
Yeah.
It's really.
You know how long my email address is?
It's a really good name.
Thank you.
Like, where did the name come from? Okay.
Yeah.
So let me just ask you this then. What does your business mean to you? Like, what does it mean? Like, what does it mean to you?
I think my business, before I knew what it could become, it was an opportunity for me to be an artist with my own medium. So I wanted to show people and myself what I was capable of, but I was like, I'm not going to paint. I'm not going to do clothing. What is my medium to be an artist? And I can do it through food, but I love color. I love sprinkles. I love creating something that you've never had before. And so that was a way to show that I can do old school. Like, hey, I have the yellow cake with the chocolate frosting. I know you love that, but have you tried the salted caramel with the banana cake? Have you tried?
Now your engineering hat is on.
Now, because I'm like, hey, I can do what you're familiar with, but then I can bring you in to something new because you trust that I know how to do what your palate understands. You trust through your taste. It's one of those sensory things where, like, if you have a good piece of chicken, you're going to trust the person who cooks that chicken and be like, you understand something. The same with a good latte, like they've done the work, and then you trust them. And then if they bring you into something else, you go, wow, I like that. And that's the power of food is our pleasure, our sensations kind of get activated in a way that we're not in control of that. And I think I've gained so much of a connection with people through food in a way that I wasn't expecting, but I absolutely love it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So cooking and baking is two different things, right?
Cooking and baking are two different things. And you're asking me as if I know how to cook.
I'm getting ready to ask you that. I'm getting ready to ask you that.
Okay, no, I roast. Let's just say that. I can roast. I'm a good roaster.
So our answer is no. I'm just joking.
You know what? I would say I cooked more before baking. And, it's like when you choose a path and you're really going to go 110, I know I'm going to dedicate myself to that. So I would say I kind of started falling off of the cooking wagon. Here's the thing. When you're a chef, you know how most chefs go get takeout. when they're done. They're not going home and they're not cooking themselves a meal because they've done, in a sense, you're not cooking for yourself, you're creating.
Makes sense.
So when you're ready to consume, it's like you're already kind of not putting yourself first. And I would say that. So with cooking, I love when somebody cooks for me because I feel the love. It's almost like I gave to you, now you're giving to me. Now, like I'm getting a cooked meal, I'm getting some spices, I'm getting this. But when I bake, I give my power away. And so,
law of reciprocity.
That's right. Yeah. And so I feel like it's a great exchange. Which is why I actually love going out to restaurants. I love food, but I love the chefs in the same way I love being a baker because I see the work, I see the value, and I analyze, and I'm like, wow, these are the spices. Like you're approaching this in a unique way. I love what you used. And I think that when somebody finds out that I'm a baker, it's even more unique because there's less bakers than chefs.
So you take the time to like really taste. You're in the moment.
I'm in the moment. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
And actually, that's what we call it. When you eat a cupcake, you're having a moment. You're having your own pleasure. You're giving yourself a break to be in that moment of pleasure. Kind of like when you have a really good scoop of ice cream. You're not going to just let it melt. And it's not like, oh, I'm going to heat it up later. You're in your moment of pleasure. And thank goodness that's not going away. You know, there's still cones. There's still that 5 minutes you have to take to enjoy your ice cream. With a cupcake. You take the wrapper off and you have your moment, whether it be a big, a medium, or a small.
Right.
It's that moment you take for yourself. You take that break.
Right.
And if you don't get that, you might not get that break the whole day to take a moment for pleasure. And then pleasure doesn't always come in the formats we think it comes in. So when you can get that little tiny moment to just do what you want, it's beautiful.
That's gems right there. Pleasure doesn't always come in a format that you think it should. And that's true. That's really true. Now we have to go a little bit deeper though.
Okay.
Because you've been an entrepreneur for 15 years.
Yes.
And although it looks good and it tastes sweet, sometimes the road gets bitter.
Oh, yeah.
So do you mind sharing some of your challenges, especially right in Oakland, because you've been through the evolution of Oakland. And right now we're in a rebirth phase.
Right. I would call it a rebirth. But there's more rebirths than ever. And I would say maybe what we're used to is rebirths every 20 years. Now maybe there's rebirths every 5 years, you know, depending on what's happening in the world. But yes, we are in a rebirth, a rediscovery as well of what we want, what we value. And I think that values are becoming important to analyze, is what do we actually value in our lives.
Elaborate on that.
So before diving into like the past of, you know, the challenges, I would say still being a business owner, still having a brick and mortar after 15 years, you look at the behavior of society as well as people, because you don't know as a business owner that you have to do this until you're in the world for a long time. First, it's about being in business. Then it's about staying in business. Then it's about growing in business. And then it's about what is the value of this company to people after you've been around, and how do you keep that value? And that's really where my focus is now, is that we are part of the Oakland community, and we are valued. And people, we've been at hundreds and thousands of celebrations and weddings and community events. And I want to keep that value there. And just seeing like, how do I keep that value? What do I need to do day to day to connect with people physically and through the website, and connecting with them one-on-one that sometimes goes beyond the product, you know? So it is something that you evolve as a business owner. You're wearing hats every day, but also every couple years, those hats change as
And
well.
it sounds stressful.
Yes, it's not, you know, there weren't smartphones when I started my company. So maybe if there were, I probably wouldn't be this far. Like I just took a risk and was like, okay, let's just do something great. I couldn't research how bad, you can research every career now and be like, do I want to get into it?
Mhm.
Okay, these are the warning signs. I didn't have that option. And I actually thank God I didn't, because sometimes you don't need warning signs. You just have to trust yourself. And I think that that's what I did, is I just trusted myself, and I just knew that if it wasn't the product, it was me.
Mm.
Like one of those things was gonna get to people. And I I have to say, I think I just like having fun, and I know that that's ultimately what people want. And so if I can channel that in them and find, I'm telling you, I have no client looks the same. I'm talking like top, bottom, from this city, from that city. Like I love I love that circle of reaching every kind of person. I'm not aiming at one type of demographic.
Right.
And I think people say, well, what's your demographic? For me, I'm like, it's really a rainbow here. I wish I could channel it, but like I didn't want it to be a girly place. I didn't want to be like, oh, it's just like pink and frilly. And I'm not saying the girly things are pink, trust me, but
Right, that's my favorite color.
I love men in pink too. But when I say girly, I mean like
No,
growing up in the 80s and having this, just this is what it's like to have a bakery, and or this is what it's like to have a cupcake shop, and these are the frills. I didn't want that. I wanted it to be open to children, any gender, any person, everybody
Right.
is allowed to come in and be themselves and choose what they want and feel accepted, because that's always what I've wanted. And I think maybe it's a bigger projection that I'm putting out there, but there's so much that's come back to me with that approach.
So
Mhm.
how did you go all of these years? Did you and still be relevant now and grow the the rainbow?
Yeah, that's good. It's just doing market research. I think with any food, you have to see what is being consumed. And that doesn't just start in your business. You're going to the grocery store, you're going to Trader Joe's, you're seeing different products. You're seeing like, oh, this is what people like now. You're going to restaurants, you're seeing different things on the menu. You're seeing what places go out of business. You're seeing what places stay in business. And so that's always helped me. I will say that offering um, variety and keeping things really exciting has always helped. So first we started off with standard cupcakes. And then I saw, oh my gosh, everybody wants minis. Like, what are mini cupcakes? I could barely get the cupcake liners when I had started that. And that was a big thing. It's like, oh, you guys have two different sites. It's like, yeah. Somebody was like, why don't you have giant cupcakes? Duh. Like, this is James and the Giant Cupcake. And I was like, okay, we're doing that too. So it's building up what people want, and they want to keep you for themselves. So they're like, okay, if you guys do this, like, this is what I want. And so I'm taking notes constantly, like, what is it that people are wanting to keep them coming to this space? I have to listen. So it's
You have to stay open and
yeah, it's different flavors. It's like, oh, do you guys do vegan? Yeah, we have this one flavor. Well, could you do this? I was like, okay. So in the beginning days, this was before I was a parent, and I could just kind of like stay up a long time figuring out how to do this vegan, how
Mhm.
to do that vegan. Do you guys do gluten-free too? Never done that. Let me go find the right flour. Let me try to do this.
Problem solving.
Bringing that in. Yeah. Finding solutions is what I always say. Like there's always a problem, but I'm the solution person.
Yeah.
So I always say problems don't concern me. It's the finding the solution that's the biggest homework because there's always going to be problems.
Mhm.
But that's not the skill.
Yeah.
The skill is the solution based approach.
Would you say that you're creating a legacy in Oakland? Would you say that?
I would say at this point, I try to be humble. So I would never
listen,
say that
so
before,
listen,
but I
come
would
on.
say after this amount of time,
Come on,
then
yeah.
I think so.
Now, you say that listen, you're on the Big Dog Talk podcast. I pridefully say I'm the best podcast in the Bay Area.
Yeah, I guess.
And I am the best podcast in the world. They just haven't caught up yet.
Right.
I do firmly believe that.
Yeah.
And that's me being humbly confident. So because when you're a staple. You've been there for
It's been 13 years in the store and 15 years total.
that's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a big chunk of my life.
That's a big
So
deal.
I would say for my life, yes, this is a legacy. For my daughter, it's a legacy to see that that's all she's known me to do, and that people know me for that when they come up to us,
Now you talking
and
that talk.
that
I like that.
people see me. I'm like, yes, you're James the Giant Cupcake. I like to be like Oz, if that makes sense. I'm very much a let the product speak for itself, and then I kind of hide behind and go, yes,
I got him. I
did
got
it.
him.
Yeah, I won that. But that to me is my reward. Is not saying Eurydice did it, but like I love this cupcake. Who did it?
All
And
right.
I go, that was me.
So you're creating this legacy.
Yeah.
It's really honestly, and I want you to take that in. I love like shining a light on beings that deserve it. I wouldn't even ask you to come on here if I didn't feel like,
Thank you.
you're inspirational. So one, you're a woman, Black woman. But do you want me to say biracial? Which one?
No, I mean, you know what? It's both.
Okay.
I am
Okay, so
Black, but I'm also biracial
So
as well.
a woman, a Black woman, biracial,
Mhm.
and you're not only are you setting the bar, you setting the standards, but you're raising the bar. And I just feel like, especially women living in a manly society.
Yeah.
Just say that.
The patriarchy.
Yeah.
Well, patriarchal.
It's like
yeah.
I'm making it to me when I'm listening to you. It's like I'm making you guys respect me. I belong here,
Mhm.
and you're a good representation for women. Not just for your daughter, and I know that's the biggest,
Mhm.
but you're also bigger than your walls at home. You're bigger than your cupcake factory. You're a walking example that, hey, I'm a woman. I have all of these eyes that's supposed to stop me, but I'm not using it as an excuse.
Mhm.
I'm gonna show you that no matter what stigma or what anyone tries to put on you, you don't have to accept that. And you're kicking down doors and you kicking some ass.
Thank you.
So legacy. Now we're talking. You talked about. I know you don't want to talk about this, but we're gonna.
No, please, just surprise me.
You talked about dad.
Mhm.
We're going to come back full circle with that, and
Okay.
mom
Mhm.
and grandmother.
Mhm.
So now we wanted to talk about daughter.
Okay.
And when I say your daughter, what is that? What type of example are you going for to inspire her? Because I know that you're follow your Instagram. You're proud of being a mommy. It's
Oh,
like
yeah.
it's like
Oh, yeah.
proud of being a mommy.
Yeah, she's my biggest blessing. I would say that, the interesting thing about being a parent after you do something so big is that there's something bigger than business. And not everybody in business chooses to. It's really hard to do both, depending on your support network. But I did that, and I wanted to do that, and I knew that it's gonna be a two different directions that might sometimes conflict, but it's it's the center of my soul,
Mm,
and she's gonna add to that. I'm confident that she's gonna add to the beauty of James and the Giant Cupcake. She's
wow.
gonna add to the legacy.
Wow.
Yeah.
So do you think she would like take on that legacy?
You know,
Or
it's hard to
it's hard to say,
say.
right?
And I think what we've heard in families, there's sometimes that family pressure that your parents want you to take on what they've done.
Mm,
And sometimes that just does not work out. And I never had that pressure growing up. But I think because I don't pressure her at all.
okay.
And the way that I approach it is completely business oriented, although she would probably prefer it to be let's bake cupcakes at home, mommy, and do these things. She's seeing the real structure of how I work. She's seeing what nobody else sees. She sees, hey, sweetie, right now you're going to have to get up with me at 5 in the morning. We got to get to the shop because there's a surprise couple orders, and you know, she'll be there, and sometimes she's tired, and we have a couch, but sometimes she's like, mommy, I want to help you.
Mm,
And she's so passionate about helping and wanting to be involved in what she does is she sees the work.
mm,
I don't even have employees that see the work,
mm.
but she sees it and what it takes, and the passion that I have for it. But also, she's an inspiration. She's, during the pandemic, when schools shut down, and I was just kind of like, all right, we're still doing cupcakes. So, what can I do to engage other children like mine? And she was the inspiration for a lot of cupcake kits that we had for people during the pandemic so that they could design cupcakes at home
Oh wow.
with their families. And it was huge. Um, and because we started it ourselves. We're
Wow.
just like, okay, you need to do something. Here's some frosting. Here's some cupcakes. Here's some sprinkles. And she's just like, oh, it was magical. And I saw that and decided to offer it to parents, hundreds of kids.
Mm.
And not as much now because people are out and about and they're back to their usual routine. But she was a big inspiration for that.
So I know what's your Instagram, right? What is your Instagram?
Oh, it's James and the Giant Cupcake.
You also have the website.
Yep, jamesandthegiantcupcake.com.
So I want to talk about before we get out of here. I
Yeah.
want to I want to bring it back full circle because you've you're cre- you're creating this legacy, but there's no way that you can create a legacy without living for the ancestors before you,
Mhm.
after you, and in the present. So if you had a moment to speak to the your most influential ancestors before you, what would you say?
Ah, about my business.
Or about them creating a path for you and you living in honor and reverence of them.
I would just say I was so happy to be a part of those hard moments because I feel like that's where the real love for doing anything is. Um, you know, my grandmother staying up late nights, seeing, you know, because I'm a compassionate person, seeing what she went through, um, and also what my dad went through. I didn't understand what the result of that passion was
Mm,
when I was little. I didn't know about money. I didn't know why things were being done, but I was grateful to be invited into those sacred spaces. Um, and so I would thank my grandmother. I would thank my dad for bringing me into beauty,
mm,
um, and trusting me in seeing that I wasn't just a kid that just needed to do something else,
Mhm.
that I was there to learn something that they didn't know I was learning.
Mm.
Like we don't know what our children are watching us do. Like you right now, this is big. Like our children are watching us do work, but it's more than work to them.
Mhm.
It's passion that they see. It's the reason.
Mhm.
And I think that's what my daughter sees is she goes, wow, like what you're doing is you're amazing. And she says that so casually. And I'm surprised. And I go, wow, like that's something I felt about my grandmother. That's
Wow.
something I felt about my dad. And you're saying that to me. And it sometimes makes me tear up because I'm like, I didn't tell her to say it. She's just on her own telling me this
Mhm.
because she's watching. And it's a good thing to watch. I think there's so many other things that kids can watch now that are not going to, they're not going to remember or be impacted later in life. But I think when you're watching your family, when you're watching um, the people in your life that are your guardians, whether they're your parents or your aunts or your uncles or whoever it is that is guiding you, that is a real serious um, honor.
Mm.
And I think that that's what I want to do is I want to honor my ancestors who opened me up to something beautiful that might have just been day to day for them.
Mm.
But it really, here we are, right? And it's just going to keep going. It's that energy,
Yeah.
it's that intention.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't know. Our intentions are really important.
Right. That is good though. James and the Giant Cupcake. Wait,
Yeah.
so what do we have? We're gonna get out of here.
Okay.
What do we have? Let's just say what do you see yourself in the next 2 to 5 years?
Um, I would love to dive back into more recipes. For a long time, I was creating recipes, getting it right, and then focusing on brick and mortar, expanding. And then we kind of just consolidated our operation more. But what I want to do now is get my lab coat back on again
Mm.
and really get more into like, um, people love our gluten free and vegan products. We're in the Bay Area. I think people are really looking for things that fit their lifestyle.
Okay.
And so getting more into different gluten free and vegan products, getting into like, um, you know, like kind of like maybe limited sugar options for people, but also getting into standard good stuff. I want to get recipes in my it, I want to capture more experiences from America baking wise that haven't really been brought to the surface. Like I love Southern cakes. I love the idea of getting into like, I've always wanted to do a 7-Up cupcake, like I want to do some more hybrid stuff and just like bring a lot of the traditional
Right.
parts of American baking, which is I'm an American baker. When we're talking about baking styles, there's French, there's American, and I really love what America has to offer. And I want to actually add to a new generation of that. So like there's what we grew up with, there's red velvet, there's the story of red velvet, there's the story of pound cake, there's the story of behind why we carry these traditions forward. And I want to carry forward new traditions as well as old traditions. So like, oh, this is how we do our gluten-free and vegan chocolate cake. So there's that. I also want to, get a YouTube channel going, and also definitely want to be working on a recipe book in the next couple of years.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. It's been something I've been thinking about for a while. But now I have a pretty big archive and I have a pretty long story, and I would love to share that with people, because I feel like we can connect even further on the love for baked goods and how it fits into our lives now.
Wow.
Yeah.
There you have it.
Yeah. The story just keeps
going.
We're just gonna keep
the journey
going.
Keeps going. Don't end, right? Keep
Right? It's
going.
gonna twist and turn, but other people are gonna follow that path. And I think that's what I want to do, is just keep people inspired and happy and celebrating, because we do fun stuff.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this interview. This was fun.
Yes. I wish I had some cupcakes here, but we're closed today. So just gonna have to come to the shop.
Thought I was gonna get me one on here, guys.
I know, I'm sorry. I had to sleep.
I'm just joking. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to just even growing with you and seeing your future continue to grow and evolve.
Yeah.
Thank you for being a trailblazer.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
High five. Thank you.